So, how did functionalists view second language learning? So, let's start by highlighting the fact that earlier functionalists shifted away from the belief that language is a defective form of the target language and consider it as an organic system with its own internal structure. So we will see how Dittmar 1985, Hubner 1983, Givon 1983, and Sato 1999, and finally Klein and Perdue in 1992 view second language learning. So Norbert Dittmar in 1984 analyzed data from an earlier study and came to the conclusion that the subjects who were Spanish migrants in Germany made little use of the morphology of German and typically expressed semantic concepts such as temporality and modality, either lexically or through contextual inference rather than grammatical encoding. And from here we can conclude that the migrants developed semantic relations, rather than syntactic, categories. So their utterances. So one of the utterances of the Spanish migrants is I tomorrow to Spain and say with you back Spain 1 bottle of cognac with you. So from this utterance, we cannot call it a sentence because it lacks a lot of grammatical elements. So as we can see from this utterance, the Spanish migrants expressed the notion of temporality through the word tomorrow, and expressed the modality. Here the modality is making a promise through context inference. So this the interpretation of data like this is helped by the theoretical distinction drawn by Givon in 1979 between pragmatic and syntactic modes of expression. Givon has argued that both informal speech and learner speech, whether first or second language, convey meaning through a relatively heavy reliance on context, as we have seen in the Spanish migrants' utterance. So normally that utterance has a pragmatic mode of expression because it lacks any grammatical encoding. So here we will see a chart that clearly shows the difference between pragmatic mode of expression and syntactic mode of expression. Let's see just the first line. So we have topic, common structure instead of subject predicate structure, loose conjunction, tight subordination. So these are the key differences between pragmatic mode and syntactic. As we have seen earlier, the Spanish migrants relied heavily on the pragmatic mode of expression rather than the syntactic mode of expression. In conclusion, we can say that according to Dittmar, second language learners express themselves using the function of the words rather than the forms. So they rely heavily on the meaning rather than on the correctness of the grammatical structure of the utterance. Now we move to Hubner, 1983, who conducted research on a H-Monk. H-Monk is a language spoken in Hawaii speaker learning English as a second language for a period of 1 year. So he concluded that early language utterances may be characterized by topic comments organization. The rules governing various aspects of the interlanguage grammar were influenced by the structure of discourse. So now we're going to see an example of a function to form analysis conducted by Sato 1990. So another longitudinal case study conducted by Saito 1990, working with two first language Vietnamese boys, also drew on the theoretical contrast proposed by Givon between pragmatic and syntactic modes of expression. However, Saito was so critical of much earlier work in this functionalist or textual tradition on the grounds of vagueness in the operationalization and identification of topic common structure in learner language. So indeed, she questioned the opposition between topic, comment, and subject predicate pattern, which second language acquisition researchers have borrowed from Givon, as we have earlier seen in the table that contrasts pragmatic mode of expression to syntactic mode of expression. And as an alternative to pragmatic modes of expression and syntactic modes of expression, Saito came up with two new concepts. The first one is parataxis, and the second one is syntaxicization. So by parataxis, she means extensive reliance on discourse pragmatic factors in face-to-face communication, minimal use of target language. Morphosyntactic devices in expression propositions, discourse pragmatic factors include shared knowledge between interlocutors, collaboration between interlocutors in the expression of propositions, and the distribution of propositional content over a sequence of utterances rather than within a single utterance. So here we have one word which is a little bit tricky. So what did she mean by proposition here? So by proposition, she means the semantic kernel of a sentence that determines its true conditions, independent of its syntactic form and lexical realization. And by syntacticization, she means she defined it as the process through which the use of morphosyntactic devices in interlanguage increase over time, while the reliance on discourse pragmatic context declines. So from here we can see that, okay, a learner of a second language starts by parataxis and moves slowly to syntacticization. From this we can conclude that a learner normally starts, okay, from parataxis, which is he relies on discourse pragmatic factors in face-to-face communication and minimal use of target language, to syntacticization, and here the learner starts using morphosyntactic devices in interlanguage increase over time. So this is what Saito concluded after studying the utterances of her subjects for a period of 10 months. So now we move to functionalism beyond the case study, and we have here a famous project, which is the European Science Foundation project. This was the first large-scale study that involved this pair of languages, and the number of participants was 21. So the study, okay, aimed at studying how migrants learn second language. So one aim of this project was to produce a comprehensive account of both the rate and the route of naturalistic interlanguage development, and by naturalistic we mean that these migrants don't attend language classes, so they learn just from the daily interaction. Development among adult learners. Another aim was to document the characteristics of native speaker, non-native speaker communication, and to identify internal and external factors on which the rate and the degree of success of the acquisition process might depend. In this experiment, the participants undertook a varied range of tasks that were repeated regularly, including informal conversation, picture description, and role plays. Examples of role plays they were given: service encounters such as interviews with housing officials, and retelling the story of a silent Charlie Chaplin film. So after analysis and drawing especially on the Charlie Chaplin narratives, Klein and Perdue 1992 argued that through a functional analysis, 3 developmental levels in the basic organization of learner utterances could be identified across all the linguistic groups that were studied. These were nominal utterance organization, and infinite utterance organization, and finite utterance organization. We can say that functionalists view language primarily in terms of its use in the context of situations, focusing on meaning conveyed in different situations. In functional studies that we have seen of second language acquisition, researchers are concerned with the ways in which second language learners set about making meaning. So, and achieving their personal communicative goal. In other words, language learning evolves out of learning how to carry on a conversation, and syntactic constructions develop out of conversations. In second language acquisition, meaning-making efforts on the part of learners are a driving force in an ongoing second language development, which interact with the development of formal grammatical systems. So the functionalist tradition, identified 3 general characteristics. So the first one is the focus is on the use of language in real situations, which is referred to as performance, as well as underlying knowledge, which is the competence. But no sharp distinction is made between the two. The second characteristic is the study of second language acquisition begins with the assumption that the purpose of language is communication, and that development of linguistic knowledge requires communicative use. And the third characteristic is that the scope of concern goes beyond the sentence to include discourse structure and how language is used in interaction. And to conclude, the aspects of communication and how language is used in interaction, and to include aspects of communication beyond language.